Hi, I'm Victoria Wilson. I'm one of the field marketing managers at Appsbroker, and I'm here with Rachel Lund today to talk all about digital transformation for retailers. So Rachel, if you'd introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Victoria. My name is Rachel, and I am the solution lead for machine learning. I also have a background in retail as well.
So let's get started. First of all, what is digital transformation?
Victoria, that's a really good question, because I think we hear the word kind of bandied around a lot, and it's become a bit of a kind of catch-all for doing stuff that's kind of new and maybe involve data. But I think when we think about digital transformation, we're essentially thinking about businesses adopting new technologies that enable to create increased customer value and also kind of make processes more efficient. But actually, it's about more than the technologies itself. Really, a proper digital transformation is about changing your processes. So in changing workflows, introducing automation, changing your business policies, but also more fundamentally about changing the culture in your organization. So changing the way people work, changing the way they interact with technologies, and even changing the skill sets among your staff as well. So it actually covers quite a lot, and that's why you sort of hear about it talked about in quite a lot of different ways. And it's definitely no easy task for any business. You know, this is something that has become fundamental to the development of a business within our economy. There's no sector that's really untouched by the need to transform digitally. But actually, you know, it can take a different shape in different industries, and each organisation, each industry kind of faces its own challenge as far as digital transformation is concerned.
Thank you. Yeah, it can feel huge, I think, to a lot of organisations. And then when you mention about the challenges that each industry faces and they're unique to that industry, well, what does that mean for retailers? How is digital transformation looking for retailers?
I think when you think about digital transformation, retail is almost the first sector you think about, because everyone has really had first-hand experience of how digital technology is affecting retail. So for retailers, you know, digital transformation is impacting them across their business. So from the way customers shop. So even though they might not necessarily have chosen this, but you know, people are shopping more online fundamentally, right? And that requires a completely different way of thinking about how you operate your supply chain, how you serve customers. But also the way people interact with a retailer has changed massively. So no longer do you just go in store and interact with your retailer over the phone or by talking to personnel. You know, people go on social media and say things about a retailer or interact with a retailer. So the way a retailer has to communicate with its customers has completely changed as well. And it also means that, you know, retailers do not have the control over their brand, for example, that they did before, because someone can easily, you know, an influencer or someone with a large social media following can easily do or say something which influences how much other people want to buy, whether it's true or not. So that's a kind of a big challenge for retailers. But also at the same time, with digital technologies has come the capacity to gather data and to improve the customer experience. So now that retailers have that capacity to know a lot more about their customers, what they like when they want to shop, you know, what their values are, what they think is important in a shopping experience, retailers can then use that information to shape and personalize the experience. So, you know, you and I could have quite a different experience with a retailer. You know, I might receive promotions on a particular day for a particular product, and you might, you know, receive it for different products because we like different things. And that's kind of, for us as consumers, that's really great, because it means we only see things potentially that we like. But also at the same time, because every retailer is doing it, it's hard to be a retailer and not doing it as well. So, you know, whilst the opportunity is there, actually the competition and is fierce. And so retailers do have to, are having to invest to do all these things that perhaps they never even would have traditionally thought about. Even another area that's kind of really important for retail is promotional cycles. Back 50 years ago, each area of retail would have had its own promotional cycle. So you would have bought clothes, there would have been a sale on clothes in the spring and a sale on clothes in the autumn, and everyone kind of bought a lot of their clothes at those particular times. You would have sold winter jackets over a particular set of weeks. But now, because you can consumers can shop anytime, anywhere, like online, they can compare prices. Actually, retailers are having to become a lot more reactive in terms of promotions to what's going on in the market. So like absolutely kind of huge change in the way they market and they interact with their consumers. But at the same time, the online experience as well has like completely shifted, where retailers need to put like their effort and their spend. If people, because online is becoming more important, consumers are also becoming more expectant of that online experience. So it's no longer just good enough to have a web shop, right? If you can't find what you want on that website, you're going like within a minute, right? If that website crashes because it's Black Friday and everyone's trying to do the same thing, you've lost all of that business to your competitors as well. So, there's been a complete shift in both how retail businesses operate and the kind of like resources and technologies they need to compete in the new world as well. And that's all kind of like the customer side. On the supply chain side as well, there have become increasing opportunities to be more efficient. So to optimize, where your suppliers are when, to use demand prediction to predict who will want what, and so you can be efficient with all those sorts of things as well. But again, because your competitors are doing it, it's not just an opportunity, it's also, you have to be in that game to keep up. And the online business model has put even more stress on that back end of a retail business, because no longer are you supplying shops, you're supplying 40 million, potentially 40 million households, like in the UK, and you have to work out how to do that profitably as well. So absolutely, like fundamental change. I mean, that's only a few things I've touched on. There are other areas like HR, for example, where digital technology can bring huge efficiencies and a sort of improve employee experience as well, and sort of all sorts of planning and risk management. So it's kind of like no part of retail that hasn't been touched potentially by digital transformation, which also is what, like to your point before, makes it really difficult, because where do you start? How do you ensure you've done everything? Like, what's the right thing to do? And those are definitely challenges which a lot of retailers are grappling with.
Yeah, it makes sense. It can feel overwhelming, can't it? But there's plenty of technology partners that can help, and they know exactly what they're doing. They've done it before, so retailers can turn to them for guidance. So what would that journey look like for retailers if they took their first step on their digital transformation journey tomorrow? How would it look like for someone, maybe an on-premise retailer who's not done too much in the cloud?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first we'll say, you as an organization, you need to set out, what your objectives are, right? So you need, as an organization, to sit as senior management need to agree together that they want to go on this journey, and what those outcomes look like. And that may sound really kind of basic, but actually, if you're not all bought into the fact that digital transformation and improving your business, pursuing revenue or profitability through digital transformation are the right things to do, then you're going to struggle to deliver a program. Now, you've obviously mentioned the cloud, right? So I think in the retail sector, there is a general acceptance that a core part of digital transformation is moving to the cloud. And there's good reasons for that. That's because, cloud technologies, like Google Cloud Platform, basically provide you with resources which can be scaled very quickly when you need them. So, for example, Black Friday comes along, your website's under huge amounts of pressure. Like, those resources that are there available to you like almost immediately, and that's really, really important for retail. So, certainly for retailers, that move to the cloud will be very important. And we kind of, there are lots of elements, as we've discussed before, to digital transformation, but you really need to kind of start with the foundation. So, start, okay, what is your kind of infrastructure? What does that need to look like? And more retailers are adopting this microservices approach to their digital platforms. So that means rather than having sort of everything interdependent on one or several sort of elements in an ordered chain, it means having your IT architecture structured so that you can easily spin up and add services or remove them like as you need. And that's very different to the kind of traditional on-prem approach to IT infrastructure. So so the first thing is kind of think about, your infrastructure. What does that look like? What are your capabilities currently? Where might you need like assistance, certainly to help you sort of take those first steps, and where might you need to kind of upskill your own organization. The second thing is to, a core part of digital transformation is data, because a lot of the technologies that we see kind of retailers able to use and coming online are around data, and using that data to drive value and to drive efficiency. So then you start kind of asking yourself questions about, okay, where should your data be stored? So what are the appropriate tools for the different types of data? And when we work with customers about who are looking at their data platform and how that should look like, there are a few fundamental things that your data platform should be able to do. That should allow for rapid and safe change over time. It should be easy to scale. So, the value your platform brings is directly linked to its cost and its ability to scale when you need it as well, which is why cloud technologies are sort of invaluable to retailers, because you can easily scale them up and down. But also it is that having your data organized in such a way that you have a single source of truth, so you don't have lots of different people who think they've got the same data but with a different view of it, which causes an absolute nightmare when you're trying to do all sorts of things or report or sort of use that data to influence how you communicate with customers as well. But also like allowing the business to have access, so all those people around your business, from procurement, from analytics, from reporting, from finance, to easily access that data, and so sort of get the most use out of it as well. And finally, it's really important to have a platform that allows you to access sort of new and emerging capabilities. So you've got your data, can you use ML and AI tools very easily? Once your data is there, what you don't want to be doing is having sort of put your data in, organized it into a warehouse or a data lake, and then find you've got to do a lot more work to be able to use a sort of a new ML algorithm or sort of for a new ML use case as well. Which is again why platforms like Google Cloud actually, because they provide services that are already kind of wrapped in, like, that take away some of the kind of configuration that you might have to do if you did it all by hand, actually allow you to kind of use tools and quickly innovate and scale and experiment with your data as well. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of how you might get there. I mean, I think the most, the most important thing, as I said, is to kind of sit down and think about, what you want this to look like. And interestingly, technology, making choices about technology is an important part of that digital transformation. And, and also sort of thinking about your processes, how you change the way in which certain workflows in the business work. That's very important. But fundamentally, the thing most organizations find most difficult is the cultural change, right? So you can have all this technology, but if people don't use it because they have their way of doing things, they have their way of operating, it becomes, you can't get the value out of that investment. And I think not only is it difficult, it's something that I think sometimes is more difficult for companies to engage with because it's not as concrete as making a choice about technology, but it's really, really important. In retail, for example, whilst we think of like all the cool use cases for ML and AI in retail, actually, the vast majority of people working in retail are working on the shop floor. And they may not be really experienced in using certain types of technology. So if you're going to introduce more technology into store, into the customer experience, you cannot forget to how you need to train your people and encourage them, and also deal with their concerns about how this new technology might be replacing their job as well. And so that should not be forgotten in amongst the kind of the excitement about kind of using new technology and talking about the promise of new technology as well.
That's a very interesting point about the cultural change and the shift as well. I guess, yeah, a lot of people are getting used to new technologies coming in because we're on the brink of, all these new technologies being developed constantly all the time. So it is a very exciting time, but we need to make everybody excited about that too. So once you've been on the journey and you've implemented all the technology, you've got your employees on board, what does that holy grail of digital transformation look like in the end? Is there ever really an end point? What do you think?
So I think there's never an end point in the terms of technology will continue to develop, right? And that's why you have to build yourself a foundation which enables you to innovate and change rapidly, right? So as an organization, you have to accept there will be ongoing investment in adopting and adapting your technologies. But I think for a business who wants to look at, have I done this successfully? Ultimately that should be measured in your business objectives. So in your metrics of are you delivering customer value? What's your top line and bottom line growth look like as well? You will be a success if in 10 years time you have grown your market share as you expected. I mean, I think it is an important point to note that digital transformation is not about driving revenue in the next quarter, right? Because there is an investment. It is about having a long-term and sustainable growth in revenue and growing within your market as well. But you have to. There's no point in doing this if it is not linked back to what your business is about. Is it driving your kind of core objectives? And that's when you've done a good job. But it'll never be a static thing that you achieve at the end.
That makes complete sense. So yes, thank you, Rachel, for your time today. We are happy to speak to any retailers wanting to start their journeys. Our contact details will be on the screen shortly. And stay tuned for the following episodes in our series specifically for retailers. And thank you for your time.